You know what, Terry? Because
He's
before I let Ega go, because I know Ega has something to
Bro,
say.
let me just go quickly. Terry, I'm just gonna say this. We need to take these cups serious. Arteta's lineups, he's not taking these games serious from the jump. The lineup he put out there today, I don't know if you guys spoke about that. Probably everyone probably spoke about it. That was criminal. And he's done this every year. He's done this. The only time he took the cup serious was the FA Cup and we won it. If he were to take the next game serious, you need to play as strong as a lineup as possible. I don't want to see Kivior, Timber, centre back pairings. I don't want to see Thomas Partey playing right back. These are all the hits to make us lose or drop points. And also take a sign. How many games are you going to play Thomas Partey right back before you realize it's not working? How many times are you going to put all these guys in and realize we need the spine? You need the Saliba, Odegaard, Saka's in there, or else this you take the spine out of the team. We're not Arsenal. We're just a bunch of young players and bench players from other teams that we put together. I honestly don't think. One second. I honestly don't think if we ever play our B team in any competition ever again, we're not winning, because these guys don't have the quality. They don't have the quality to be solid defensively and to score goals. They're very passive. They're very scared, and they were not forward thinking at all. The moment you brought Odegaard, Saka, and Saliba in, the game changed. And Arteta needs to wake up and realize if you're gonna make a rotation, maybe 4 or 5, not 7 or 8, not 9. That's ridiculous.
No, I agree. I agree with your point. I feel like he did over rotate, but I also look at it as maybe he might have been having one eye on the game this Saturday against Crystal Palace, right? But I still do agree. It was a little bit. There was a little bit of an over rotation. There is a such thing as that, and you're right. At the end of the day, he should be trying to go out and actually win a trophy, because it's been a while. And at the end of the day, Arsenal fans are demanding a trophy this season. They are demanding trophies, right? So I feel like maybe, and I feel like, because you saw that in the second half, he was quick to change, right? Took off in the 1 year, he brought in Odegaard. You can clearly see he's taking these cups seriously, unlike the past few years.
Not from the jump. Not from the jump. Not from the jump. Also, I just want to big up the team also. Good job, Jesus. That's the first time in 367 days where he scored a goal and he scored a hat trick. So big up to him, turning that around. Also, one more thing I want to say: if we're gonna take any positive away from this, Crystal Palace started their best 11, played them for 60 minutes, and those guys, some of those guys might have tired legs, where some of our guys might be fresh.
But that's where I'm going to challenge you, Igal. You're sitting here and looking at them picking their best team is now a benefit for you at the weekend, but you're asking Arteta to pick his best team, which then by your own logic means you're weaker at the weekend in a more important competition where you have to win.
No, because I think we're better quality in Crystal Palace. Said we're able to do that, and we're able to still play maybe 4 or 5, not go out there and play a whole 11 versus the next team, but at least play more players of quality.
It wasn't a complete whole 11, but I get your point. But this is what happens when you try and have multiple trophy-winning seasons. In the early rounds of FA Cups and the early rounds of League Cups, and this is still an early round because you're not playing a big boy as of yet, and I don't mean that with any disrespect to Palace. This is what the teams do. You have to use your squad, and what you did differently to Liverpool, and Liverpool, if they'd have conceded another goal, I looked at Liverpool's team tonight, and if Liverpool would have been behind, they'd have really struggled. They had nothing on the bench to change the game. That's why you had those guys on the bench as an example, so you could change it. And it worked. I do get your point, Igal, and I get where you're coming from, but you have to remember, if you do that and you start going deeper, if you played your best 11 in the early rounds of the cup competitions, all the Champions League games, all the Premier League games, you would get to February and your entire team would fall off. They'd have no legs.
Terry, I'm not saying play your best 11. I'm just saying don't be stupid enough to think you can win a game without Odegaard, Saka, or one of our center backs.
You don't want Partey right back. That's one of your things.
I agree that the bench is not good enough, right? I do agree the bench is not good enough. However, I also believe that if we are to survive this Christmas period, if we want to still be in on the fringes of a Terrace, even I don't believe we're in it no more. I feel like rotation is going to be essential, and we've got games coming up every couple of days now, all the way up until January. So a lot of these players need to be refreshed. A lot of these players need to be
they need to be rotation.
Kieran Tierney coming today, right? He it's better than seeing Timber on the left sometimes. You know what I'm trying to say to you, where we're unbalanced and we're always cutting in.
All I ask is, if you're gonna take every game serious, we have 2 more games before we can win a trophy. Take that serious, and in the league, of course, you have to take it serious. In the Champions League, of course, you have to take it serious. Just take every game serious. Don't ever play a team where you have your whole back line's changed, your whole midfield's changed, and your whole attack's changed. Keep at least some consistency. That's all I ask. Anyways, I'm out of here, guys. Love.
I do hear you there. We've got AJ here that says, I understand those who think Arteta should go, but we know what a reset does to us. By the way, it should not be a reset if he leaves.
No.
If your club comes out and says we're resetting and starting all over again,
no.
My advice is burn the place down because you're in trouble. It shouldn't be. It should be a plug and play, new head coach, new manager, and you pick up where the last person left off, as an example. But the money situation at Arsenal always makes me laugh, and all clubs. And I think you've been relatively successful with the 600 million you've spent, in the sense of you've gone from being a team coming mid-table and looking completely a million miles away from it to a team that genuinely challenges for the league. So there's progress there. You've won an FA Cup. You're a Champions League side again. But you have to always spend money. And this is the thing when people go, but you spent 600 million, yes, and it doesn't matter if you're successful. Let's go to the nth degree successful, which Standards FC love, and you've won 2 Premier Leagues now and you've won 2 Champions Leagues. You've still got to then spend another 600, 700, 800 million over the next 5 years to maintain that. And then you have to keep doing it. So whether your money yields success or failure, you still have to keep spending. Now, you have periods when you're successful where you maybe buy a little bit less because 2 or 3 play. If, for instance, what was his name? Lokonga and Kivior and Vieira. If those guys had worked out, then maybe you wouldn't need to spend as much over a couple of year period, as an example. But then what you might do with the money is go, we're going to go and buy one of the best goalies in the world. We're going to go and buy the best striker in the world, as an example. But there still comes a point where you're going to have to spend money again. And it's why fans always use it as and Gooners used to be the worst for this, by the way. When you were competing against Man United, it would be, our net spender is so much better than yours, so much better than yours. That's, again, I never used to understand the celebrating of a team of, oh yeah, well, our net spend, your net spend is 300 million in the last 5 years. We've only spent 110, but we've won 5 Premier Leagues. You've won none.
Yeah, exactly.
It was almost like it didn't make sense to me. It should be, I want my club to spend how we have in the last 11 years, but I want us to spend it on the right players, right? I'm proud of the fact that my club generates enough money to be able to do that. That demonstrates 100+ years of success and growth and what we are, and we get to utilize that, which is why I don't like the NFL model, because it's sort of like you do well and then you get put to the bottom of the pile. I like the fact that in our sports, the better you do, as long as you're well run, you should be able to continue that success. But yeah, you guys have got to spend again. And
I think people forget about the margins as well. So in terms of when you're a second, the margin to get up to get to first is a lot smaller, and there's only a certain level of quality that you can get to kind of help you, or you need a certain level of quality to help you get there, which usually means spending more money. If you look at even City between when they won a treble, it was Haaland and a few other transfers that helped push them over the line, right? They were still a successful team that spent money consistently for years beforehand. But to become a treble winning team, a Champions League winning team, right? They had to go out and buy that top level talent, and this is where I don't see
and Terry
have that nuanced conversation when looking at managers and.
Yeah, and on the money as well. When people say, someone here says it's 800 million, maybe euros, but I was looking at this now. When did he come in, Arteta?
2019, the end of 2019.
January. So sorry guys. So he got 8 million was spent on Pablo Mari in the January on him, right? So he got 8 million euros then. I'm just going to add this up really quickly, right? This is from Transfermarkt, because people say things and I think they add money on. So 8 million euros in that January. We'll add everything into this. The following season, the 2021 season, it was 86 million euros. The following year was 167 million euros. Then it was 86 million euros. And then 23-24, it was 235 million euros. and this summer just gone as 108 million. So it's 790 million euros. So that is pretty close. But this is what people do this with the euro thing. If we take 780 million euros and convert that into £650. So when people go, you spent 800 million, they're very clever because they make it sound like 150 million pound more. And the thing is, with a lot of that money, and this is why it's always an important conversation to have, because most people right now would say Man United's squad is 6th, 7th, 8th best in the league, which means you're nowhere near a title challenge. And we've spent loads of money on that squad, but we know it's been incorrectly spent. To build a squad from this point that's good enough to even challenge, you're probably looking
1.2 billion.
No. From this point, you're probably looking at about 600 to 700 million pounds.
Oh, that's what I meant. You spent 600 and you need more 600, so total 1.2.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant.
Again, but this is the thing. It depends on who's analyzing you. So if it's someone that dislikes you, say Amorim then gets 600 million spent, there'll be people that go, yeah, but what about what he inherited and how much he spent on that? Well, let's be honest. There was a lot of money spent on the players that Arteta inherited, but that's not on Arteta. In fact, your situation was even more different because it wasn't just Arteta coming in. It was a complete and utter refresh of the club. So are you going to hold Arteta accountable for the money that previous people spent? And if that's true, like, how far do you take that? And that's what I don't like about these conversations, because depending upon someone's personal feelings towards a club or a manager, they pick and choose when they include previous spending or not. And so for me, it's about creating an equal balance when everyone comes in. But the money argument is futile, because whether you start off with a mid-table team or you're already the best team in England, over a 5, 6, 7 year period, you're going to all have to spend hundreds of millions, which is why I always say none of the top 6 teams are underdogs. We've got to remember Spurs and I always go back to this during Fergie's era, spent £40 million less in totality in Fergie's era in the Premier League than Man United did. The idea that Spurs don't have any money, this little team, they're not. Spurs spend only a smaller. They don't spend. When you look at all the top sides, Chelsea and City have outspent everybody by a fair bit. Man United then come in with what we've wasted in the last few years, but it isn't like what Arsenal and Liverpool and Spurs have spent is a pittance. It is billions. Do you know what I'm saying? It's still billions of pounds. It's crazy.